The state of Missouri took control of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. The city said that was unconstitutional. And Thursday, a Cole County courtroom started sorting out who is right. And the ruling, when it comes, may not be the last word. Welcome to The Record. I'm Mark Maxwell. A legal battle over local control, state power, and who pays the bill. The Arch City defenders brought that suit alongside Board of Aldermen President Megan Green.
Anything can happen between now and as we go up this ladder. We hope that we will be in the Supreme Court at some point, and we got time to think about that. Right now, we're still processing all of what this means, and it's very complicated, as you can imagine.
It's just the beginning. We see this as a step in the right direction for real oversight over the local police department and hopefully reversing the state takeover.
Both sides have until June 1st to submit their proposed ruling. The next hearing is June 15th, and as Mike Milton just told us, this fight is built for a longer road ahead. Moments after arguments ended in court in Jefferson City, we spoke with the Attorney General of Missouri, serving as the attorney for the St. Louis Board of Police Commissioners, Catherine Hanaway. Madam Attorney General, generations of St. Louisans have watched this city struggle with questions of who governs, who pays, and who's accountable when things do break down and go wrong. The state board has now taken operational control of the police department, and the city says it just can't afford what the state board is demanding. So in the simplest terms possible, who is right, and how does a court get around ultimately deciding that?
Well, look, I think that the police board is right. There are some specific line items that are subject to the mayor's lawsuit that were different than this lawsuit today. But ultimately, the police need to be funded at full strength, and they need to be funded at pay levels that are competitive with the surrounding area. And we're far below both of those things. And so I know the mayor has said other services might have to be cut. I don't want to speak for every citizen in the city, and I certainly can't, but I think that the highest priority is safety beyond everything else, because without that, the city's not going to come back.
The Hancock Amendment was passed by Missouri voters precisely to prevent the state from handing local governments bills that they didn't ask for. The city argues that's exactly what's happening here. What is the police board's answer to that argument? Yeah,
so the judge did not find that argument persuasive today. The city has had a police department, sometimes under state control, sometimes under the city's control, for well over 100 years. I mean, maybe even 150 years. This isn't a new obligation that's been foisted on the city.
The Attorney General's office, you mentioned that the police need lawyers who have their backs. The AG's office took over the defense of SLMPD cases from the city councilor's office. I want to ask you about the Tyron Edwards case. The lead defense attorney from your office there entered her appearance in December, 3 months after passing the bar. She had never tried a case. The jury returned a $37 million verdict there. Who made the decision to assign a first-year lawyer as sole counsel on a high-stakes excessive force case? Yeah,
so she was not the sole counsel. There were a number of lawyers both supervising that case and actually trying it day to day. The first chair trial lawyer was a very experienced person who got involved in the case. That particular lawyer that you're referring to was, monitoring what was happening and helping to prepare for the case.
So was working on a team there. But in that hypothetical, going forward, the city wouldn't have a vote, per se, in picking the experience level of the lawyer arguing a case there. And in a liability case where there is a settlement, the city would have to pay that out if this Missouri House bill and Senate bill becomes law. Is that the arrangement that Missouri voters should accept?
Yes, I don't know who else's responsibility it would be, and it's precisely the same situation in Kansas City. We represent the Kansas City Police Department, and we communicate both with the city and the department regularly about case strategy, settlement strategy, and in fact, in the city of St. Louis, the city councilor's office has worked to settle some cases even since we've entered our appearance on some of those. So it's a very collaborative process, and here's what I will say to everyone who's listening, but especially to the men and women on the police force. we're going to get the very best lawyers from this office to defend you. This isn't going to be the B team. It will definitely be the A team all the time.
I wonder if you think there's a solution here at the state level where the House and the Senate could kick in enough money to say, we'll cover liability, because the state board, you asked who else would pay for it. The state board is the one coming up with the transparency policies, the pursuit policies, the training policies. Why would it then pass the buck when it comes to something breaking down in those policies?
Well, what we're talking about, though, is a board of commissioners that's appointed by the governor. It's not the state running things. These are citizens of the city of St. Louis who, and I'm so grateful to them that they're willing to step up and take the heat and govern, but the policing is provided to the people of St. Louis, not the rest of the state.
Who does pick up the tab when the police lose in court? House Democrat Lakeisha Bosley in that debate on the House floor joins us on the record in just a moment. Lakeisha Bosley is a Democrat from St. Louis. She voted no on the state takeover of the city police. She voted no on the amendment that shifts legal liability onto city taxpayers too. And she sits on the committee that handles all of this legislation. One big issue: who pays when police break the rules that the state writes and enforces? This week, she stepped off the House floor long enough to tell us what this fight is really all about. Representative, you said that the state needs to pay for what the state is operating. That feels like common sense to a lot of people. Why is it so hard to get that written into the law?
Well, when you have a legislature that is heavily indoctrinated with this idea that democratic cities don't support law enforcement, they do everything that they can to have a overreaching and a strong hand on those cities. So this legislature is no different, unfortunately. So it'll be very hard to pass something that'll benefit the city of St. Louis, that actually puts St. Louis in a positive spin, because they don't control it. And when I say they, I do mean Republicans.
What evidence do Republicans have that House Democrats are actively supporting law enforcement?
They have all of the evidence. I mean, look at the raises that our police officers just got, the 15% increase a year or so ago. The fact that the city's budget is trying to accommodate this lopsided request from the police commission. We're trying to do everything what we can to support our law enforcement officers, but we're also trying to make sure that we don't bankrupt the city in the process.
You've seen the fiscal note. The city says this creates financial chaos. You just used that B word, bankruptcy. Walk me through what that actually looks like for a St. Louis family whose neighborhood services might one day get cut because the city has to make the payment on a settlement payout.
Yeah, so how that will look is the state doesn't pay for anything. The state is saying for the time that the city had control for these settlements, then the city will pay for them. But when you take over something, it's like anytime a business acquires another business, you're taking on the debt of that business as well. And for a family of four who is right next to a vacant lot and the city is caring for that vacant lot, now they don't have forestry and can't go cut that lot. And now that lot has an increase of knee-high grass, so to speak, and you don't know what's in there. You get rodents and other problems, etc. And it also doesn't make the city look beautiful, nor does it make the city feel safe. So it could be a scene straight out of Wire, if you ask me, if we don't do our part in making sure that we have a budget that reflects all of the city services and the entire city's departments.
The takeover happened. It's already law. At what point does fighting over the cost structure become a distraction from making the police department work?
The police department was already in the process of working. You have a good chief, you had a good public safety director, you had communication from the mayor's office. Everybody was in tandem of trying to figure out how to make this police department work, as well as working with the community to do some community benefits. The problem that we're seeing right now is the state, just like I said earlier, they just want to have control over the city of St. Louis. And what that means to them is by controlling law enforcement. The other part of that is this isn't a distraction. This is the fight. Because if we can't pay our bills, then we can't pay our police department. We can't support our police department. It makes their jobs a lot harder. You hear the argument all the time that we're down 200 plus officers, and their magic bullet was let's get rid of the lines of how they can recruit and where they can recruit. 100-mile radius or a 50-mile radius, and we still didn't see an increase there. It's just harder to get people to want to do this profession now for more than enough reasons. So I commend the men and women who are in blue, who are doing their jobs, but I also commend the city of St. Louis for trying to do its part of bringing it back and bringing it full circle.
Your Republican colleague, Representative Christ, has said that this House amendment attached to the Senate bill that advanced this week gives the state board budget flexibility. We've got a copy of the actual language here. It strips state liability for settlement lawsuits entirely. Did anyone on your side offer an amendment to split the costs? And if not, why?
We didn't know that this amendment was coming. From my understanding,
well, the bill was filed in the House. You knew the bill was
the bill
there.
was filed. We heard it in Crime and Public Safety. The conversations that we had in that committee hearing room and after off the record was, hey, we're not going to push this until the city and the board and the attorney general and everybody comes up with the MOU. They did that. They signed it. And then now you drop something like this. And the conversation that I had with that colleague was the reason why he pushed it was because the attorney general told him to do so. Because they are upset, feelings are a little hurt, and I said it on the floor, I'll say it again. Feelings may be a little hurt because the mayor is doing what her constituents is asking her to do, which is file a lawsuit against this unlawful police takeover.
You have less than 2 weeks in session. What's the Democratic play here? Is there one?
The Democratic play is to get on that conference committee, to do our best to get it stripped in conference committee because it hasn't gone through the full process. But also, we're relying on our senators heavily to filibuster if this comes through. I mean, it's an almost 400 page bill with a numerate of things in it. And this is just one of the most egregious.
If the city is responsible for the tax revenue that ultimately funds the police department, why shouldn't the city also be responsible for the legal costs?
Well, when the city had control over the police department, that's what the city did. The city paid for that legal cost. But now the state has control over our police department, so the state should foot its bill.
But the city, every dollar that comes into the state police department outside of like federal grants or state grants, but the revenue, the actual money to pay for the police department, already comes from the city.
Yes.
And so why shouldn't the settlement money also come from the city? What's the distinction?
Well, the distinction there is, hey, we can pay for salaries. We will be paying for salaries. But when it comes to the liability, because you have now assumed liability for this police department, every action that this police department does as the state, you should be liable to pay for it.
You also have been talking a lot about city budgets. Right now you work on the state budget. You have any, could City Hall use a mind or a voice like yours?
Mark, I think City Hall is doing a really, really good job. I think that there's always opportunities out there for more young people to get involved at City Hall. But, I commend those alders for what they are doing right now. It is not an easy fight. So I appreciate them for holding the line to try to make sure that the city doesn't go under.
7 or 8 months left until filing. Do you intend to run for an office closer to home?
Well, you know what, Mark? I have been praying. I prayed for an entire year before I ran for state rep, and I'm just waiting on God to tell me what he wants me to do.
All right, well, keep your ear close to the ground and let us know when he tells you.
I definitely will. I appreciate you, Fred.
House Democrat Lakeisha Bosley, thanks for joining us from Jefferson City. Surveillance under scrutiny, a drone debate taking flight in South City. Alderman Matt Devotie on the record when we come back. The Hill neighborhood in St. Louis has a new kind of neighborhood watch. Private businesses pooling money to put drones in the sky, feeding live footage into the city's real-time crime center. So is it filling a gap left by a police department that is hundreds of officers short, Or is it inviting the rise of robot police and all the civil liberties questions that might accompany it? In a city fighting over who controls its police force and who pays the officers, the questions about who controls that video may be just as important. Alderman Matt Devotie from the 5th Ward is now on the record. It's good to have you with us.
Good to be here, Mark.
Alderman, generations of St. Louisans have accepted some form of surveillance in their community, whether that's those red light cameras, the surveillance video in the parking lot of a grocery store or a restaurant, some outside of a business. What makes a drone different, and why should your constituents trust that this program will stay within those generally accepted boundaries?
Well, I think, Mark, in many ways, a drone is no different. It's no different than all of that video that we've gotten used to. I mean, one thing you didn't mention, which is all over the place, is something like a doorbell camera, a Ring camera. So in many ways, not different. Now, how is it different? Well, importantly, it's in the sky. The drone is moving over our heads. It is moving over the streets. It's moving over public spaces. So in that way, I'll give it to you. It is a little different.
If the program works, if it brings about safety, if crime drops on the Hill, what is the exit strategy? Or is the expectation that private drone surveillance becomes a permanent feature of life on the Hill?
Well, I don't know about permanent, but I think what it would be, at least for the immediate future, is it is something that is present. This partnership has a 3-year agreement with Titan Security, who is the operator of the drones. What that is, I believe, a showing of, is a thought of let's give this a try. Let's give this an opportunity to see, do we see a decline in those petty types of annoying crimes, property crimes? So let's give it a shot.
I hear you. In my last 45 seconds with you here, if a resident of the Hill comes to you and a year from now says, hey, look, this footage was used, this program was used in a way that I never expected, never consented to, facial recognition, spying in my backyard, what do you tell them and what can you actually do about it?
Well, what I tell them is, I'm disappointed. Let me do some investigation. Let me check on this. I anticipate that I will remain in communication with the initiative operators throughout. But if something like that is brought up to me, first thing I do is I pick up the telephone and I check out that information. Ultimately, what do I do about it? I'm the 5th Ward Alderman. I have the ability to propose and pass a board bill. And if I think I need to do that, that's on the table.
I said last question. Will it bother you if I thought of one more quick one?
Go ahead.
If you had to guess, right now, you're an attorney. Who has the better legal standing, the better case, the better argument against the state takeover? Board President Megan Green or Mayor Kara Spencer? They both filed separate lawsuits. Which one's stronger?
Right now, I would say the mayor.
Alderman Matt Devotie, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
The August primary in Missouri's 1st congressional district was always going to be something of a referendum on October 7th, on what it means, on who bears responsibility for what came after, and on whether any of that should determine who represents North St. Louis in Congress. A lot has certainly changed since Hamas first attacked Israel in 2023. The death toll in Gaza has climbed into the tens of thousands. The international consensus has shifted wildly. Courts and governments that once stood firmly with Israel have started to ask harder questions. The facts on the ground in 2026 are not the same facts on the ground as they were in 2023, when Wesley Bell first launched his campaign with that as his reason for running. But those facts and today's facts all still matter. And when a prominent voice in progressive media posted that Congressman Wesley Bell had skipped a candidate forum with Cori Bush, well, the facts turned out to tell a more complicated story. So we checked the record. Bell was in Washington that day, casting votes in Congress. The event organizer in the 6th Ward, a supporter of Cori Bush, the leader of the most progressive ward organization in the city, told us that Bell's team was engaged, tried to make it work, called in, and that, yes, voting in Congress is his actual job. The forum had been rescheduled once already to accommodate his schedule at the time. Then the House schedule changed. Organizers acknowledged and understood that's the nature of the job. What the record also shows, the 6th Ward Democrats had already thrown down a gauntlet, a litmus test. The progressive group voted back in December 2025 to refuse to endorse any candidate who accepts money from AIPAC. They signed that resolution into effect early January. Wesley Bell's FEC filing showed he received thousands of dollars in AIPAC contributions after that resolution was signed, the most recent reported as of March 31st this year. So he wasn't going to win that endorsement, not because he missed a meeting, but because of where nearly a third of his campaign war chest comes from, The forum itself would have decided nothing, but the questions it raises won't go away. Sooner or later, on that stage or another, Wesley Bell will still have to answer them. That's our show. Until next time, we're off the record.